Yes.
Okay, let me try the sound. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
All right, great. I guess the music didn't work the way I planned it to. All righty. We've got quite a bit to discuss, so I'm going to try to start right on time. My name is Armando Tirado. I'm a captain in the Martinsburg Composite Squadron, and I am also the Wing Public Affairs Officer. And I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us, including all the way from Indiana. That's great, great. I have about 30 minutes of a presentation, give or take, and hopefully we can get 30 minutes of some an opportunity for us to discuss any best practices, any questions or anything like that, since we have I joined recently as part of the wing staff, so this will give us an opportunity to learn more about the state, learn more about everybody out there, and what's being done in every squadron. So a little bit about myself before we start. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I started with Civil Air Patrol in Puerto Rico as well. I used to be a member of the Air National Guard, and the Aguadilla Cadet Squadron meets at my old Guard unit, and that's how I started. Started in 2006. Because of my job with Customs and Border Protection, I moved to Washington State, and I was out there for a while in Eastern Washington at the OMAC Composite Squadron. I did mostly public affairs, a very small stint as commander. And then my job brought me to Sterling, Virginia, where I work now. And since then, this is back in 2015. In 2015, I decided to join the Martinsburg Composite Squadron. And I've been there as a public affairs officer since. So I decided, since I'm new to the staff, to the wing staff, I decided to start with pretty much a back to basics. If somebody cannot see the screen, let me know. Hopefully we can. I just want to put out there that as far as national headquarters, they see the squadron, the unit's public affairs officers, as the backbone of the national program. They actually delegate the responsibility for implementation of the program to the squadrons. In other words, you are the official spokesperson for your unit. Technically, the only official spokespeople for the unit are the commander and the public affairs officer. So your job is really, really important. And it is very unique in the sense that we actually can speak for the unit outside of Civil Air Patrol. Now, I still do tell our people, look, everybody's a public affairs officer. The fact that you're actively participating in something on a volunteer basis makes you the face of it, and people will ask you about it. What's Civil Air Patrol about? Why did you take off to that encampment? What did you do? constantly we talk about Civil Air Patrol, even if we're not public affairs officers, and that's really important. So I just wanted to point that out before we start. My approach is going to be a back to basics. We're going to circle back to what public affairs does according to our regs. What's our objectives? I am going to discuss the new branding guide. Everybody's aware that there's a new branding guide out there. If you're not, then we're gonna bring some great news to you. And also how a person gets assigned by the squadron commander to be a public affairs officer. I do understand that there are many small squadrons that the commander is the public affairs officer, and we will discuss that a little bit more. I also want to go real quick about career development. It's an issue that is very personal to me. It's very difficult as a public affairs officer to progress, I believe. And I think that considering the size of our wing, it'll be a good opportunity for us all together to progress in our career field by helping each other out instead of trying to go at it alone. Also, I want to cover the anniversary planning guide. I know COVID has kind of thrown a monkey wrench on our plans for the 80th anniversary, but I believe we still have time to do a significant amount of publicity and cost-effective publicity, which is the best way, right? Hopefully that's what we're going to be doing. A little bit of a housekeeping note, if you're aware of how Teams works, at the top right corner of this presentation, you're going to see the buttons for the mic and the camera. To the left, you should be able to see a small face, like a smiley face with a hand. If you have a question or anything, you can raise your hand using that. My chat is also open. If your chat is not open, to the left of that, you should be able to see like a little thought box. That means it's a chat. You can click on that. It'll open a chat window, and we can type there. To the left of that, there's a little people, and we'll be able to see who's in the chat as well. Okay, so let's get started. Great. I am gonna use our CAP regulation 190-1 as the backbone of explaining all of this, right? It's her 190-1. As the functions of the public affairs officer are divided in several areas. One of them is planning. Public affairs officers will, and I emphasized will because in CAP regulations, will and must mean that you have to do it, right? Shall and may means that it's optional but recommended. So we want to keep that in mind. PAOs will develop a public affairs plan. Now, as far as wing does not require at this time a public affairs plan to be submitted. That does not mean you don't need to have it, as SUI inspections might affect that, okay? Squadrons don't need a crisis communication plan either. The regulations mention it, but it does specify that it's for the wing level, right? So we don't need to, units don't need to develop a crisis communication plan, and at this time, you don't need to submit the plan to wing unless it's requested by us. You still have to create it. It still has to be filed, especially during SUI time is very important, right? And I will explain why squadrons don't do the crisis communication, but wing does. The plan, as far as the plan goes, they use a 4-step planning process. It's a lot simpler to develop it using this 4-step process, because that way it's the same from unit to unit, right? And it follows the national plan. It doesn't have to have the same things, but the same 4 steps have to be in it. So the first step, determining needs and opportunities. that is, local. What are your needs? What do you need as a unit? What are the opportunities that you have to exploit these needs, right? To achieve these goals. And then once you establish that, you can create specific goals, objectives, right? Based on the needs and opportunities from step one. After you develop these goals, then you can actually prepare an action strategy for these objectives. Then you're going to be able to, okay, I have this goal that I need to achieve. How am I going to get there? Once you prepare a plan on how to get there, then you need to, what is the end goal? What do you want to get from it? State your desired impact for each goal. So in other words, I want to, my action strategy is that once a quarter, I'm going to send the press release to the newspapers. Well, what's the impact? What do you want to get from it? Well, what I want to get from it is that I'm going to be able to make sure that the press puts out at least one, sorry about that, guys. One good news article about Civil Air Patrol at least, once or twice a year. It has to be developed annually in the first quarter of the calendar year with an evaluation of the effectiveness of previous goals. You create it at the beginning of the year. If it's their second or third year in this same plan, you have to be able to explain, how did I get there from the previous, what have I gained, what have I lost from the previous year? That way you can modify it. Now, some of the functions that we have are internal and external public affairs, right? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The important thing is that you know who is your target audience. Who are the people that you want to get to? External has to deal with our constituencies outside of Civil Air Patrol. Internal is our audience within Civil Air Patrol. Now, going back to the crisis plan, Wing and Regent developed these plans in order to be able to present a unified message of something that goes wrong. In other words, a crisis plan is only for something that's negative, right? Negative newsworthy events will be handled by Wing and Region. Guidance to the squadrons will happen at the time. Usually the most common ones would be some sort of an accident, some sort of a member getting in trouble, right? And the information has to flow up to us, to Wing, but Wing is the one that's going to develop, okay, what is the message, the talking points we're going to put out there for the press to disseminate. I highly recommend that instead of not replying to the press, if the press goes directly to you, if something negative happens, just refer them to Wing. You can refer them to me, and hopefully we'll have something by then. If we develop something for the squadrons to disseminate, it'll probably be on our behalf. All right. Our objectives as far as public affairs nationwide: increase our public awareness of CAP, developing the plan, promote cooperation between CAP and other organizations. You know who your organizations are in your community, and you probably know who to go to and who you want to make sure that knows about what we have, right? We also want to consistently communicate our identity and inspire every member to help build awareness of Civil Air Patrol. Our job is to be consistent, right? Now, it's a little difficult with a nationwide organizations of 52 wings, but the good thing is that National keeps trying to consolidate their brand into a streamlined product that we'll be able to disseminate. For more information on these, that part of the objectives is on paragraph 2 of Regulation 190-1. I'm going to try to keep, as we go along, quoting where from the regulation I got this information. All right. A big change that happened in our latest review of 190-1 happened in paragraph 7.4, right? 7.4. PAOs at all level should be familiar with the branding master plan, which just changed, by the way. You should be able to use the brand resource guide, which, by the way, is no longer in a document form. It is in a website separate from our public affairs website in national that gives you all the information you need on branding, right? We should also ensure all of our social media channels are branded in accordance with these guidelines. There's a lot of websites out there. There's a lot of Facebook pages and Twitter pages and such, or Twitter accounts. We need to make sure that if we have those and we manage those, we need to control them. Probably later on for the best practices, I will highly suggest that if we do have social media accounts, that more than one person has access to it and is able to control it. And it is something that we learned in Martinsburg the hard way. It's an unfortunate thing that happened to us. And I pointed out not as to put us down, but as a lesson learned. Let's put it that way. Okay, so brand.gocivilairpatrol.com is our new branding guide. There might be still an older PDF running around. I would recommend we not use that and just use the website. Okay, in a nutshell, the branding guide says our new logo, hopefully you can see my cursor pointing out here, are two versions of the new logo, a vertical version and a horizontal version, or I would say portrait and landscape version of the logo. This is our new logo. We still have the triangle with the propeller. It's the actual font and color is what has changed. So the symbol without the word Civil Air Patrol are the triangle with the propeller. The good thing about this new branding guide is that we do have a tool generator where instead of U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, you can replace that with Martinsburg Composite Squadron, West Virginia Wing, Parkersburg Composite Squadron, whatever you need to place there. It could be a summer encampment, a flight academy. It could be replaced right there. And that way it'll be a streamlined logo everywhere we go. Right next to it, I placed the command emblem. And the reason is these top three should be our most public insignias, I guess we would call it. These would be used mostly in the public, right? Especially the logo and symbol. But as you know, our vehicles have the command emblem. It's the same one we wear on our flight suits. Now, the seal and the roundel are official, but they should be more internal, not so much public, right? Now, the roundel is used on aircraft only. It shouldn't be used for any publicity, any flyers or posters or anything like that. We should try to use the ones on top. You know, our logo symbol should be the most ideal. Now, wording, they even go as far as how to call ourselves. You hear a lot of people saying the Civil Air Patrol. You know, I'm in the Civil Air Patrol. Or these are members of the Civil Air Patrol. The actual correct use is not the Civil Air Patrol, but Civil Air Patrol. I am in Civil Air Patrol, right? These are members of Civil Air Patrol. Same thing. And I probably made that same mistake already, but it's pronounced CAP, not CAP, right? Not to be confused with certain call signs. That is totally different. I'm talking about our brand as far as public affairs is concerned. We use CAP. Now, as far as the assignment of the public affairs officer, right? Each unit commander appoints a qualified individual to be a PAO. Now, a qualified individual means that the person has to be trained in the public affairs career track, right? The specialty track. Now, they have 12 months from the time of appointment to qualify. In the absence of an assigned PAO, the commander is responsible for the duties of public affairs officer. We see that a lot in very small units, right? Sometimes not so small units, depending on what the the specialty track of the commander is. But usually on smaller squadrons, the commander is going to be the PAO because there's just not that many, there's not that much manpower to handle this, and that's understandable. Now, I'm going off on 190-1 paragraph 3. So I put it in quotation marks. If the unit commander acts as the unit's PAO for 6 months, then he or she will be assigned as a PAO according to current personnel procedures and regulation 35.1 and is required to enroll in the PAO specialty track. I'm not saying that we're not going to enforce it. I'm just saying that that is what's written, right? Now, under normal circumstances, if the commander is the PAO, National expects us to enroll in the PAO specialty track. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying that we have to do it that way. I'm just explaining how the regulation states it, right? Now, we do know that if there is no public affairs officer, the commander will usually assign his or herself any services as a public affairs officer if nothing has happened for 6 months, if we're not able to assign somebody for 6 months. I just wanted to point that out. I'm not saying that it's going to be enforced in a way where, you know, all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of commanders in the public affairs specialty track. I just wanted to mention that that's what the regulations say, and keep in mind these regulations change. That might be a change that might come down the road. All right, now as far as those who do choose to be a public affairs officer and do the specialty track, paragraph 6 explains that wings will provide training for the subordinate unit PAOs at least annually. I will count this seminar as training. It will be available on our Teams channel that we have under West Virginia Wing. So that way it can count as training. I hope for next spring, and I can't promise that yet. We're still working out the kinks, but I'm hoping to create, to have a public affairs officer academy to further this training, because it is my responsibility to provide this training, and I need it personally because I have a technician rating. I want to promote, I want to move up to the senior rating, but not only that, I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to move up to the senior rating. Okay. Pamphlet 201 has the specialty track. It explains what is needed to promote and move up. Every level contains knowledge in the pamphlet. Every level contains knowledge, trainings, and performance requirements, as well as service requirements that must be completed in order to attain each successive rating. And so knowledge, what do you need to know to move up? Training, what do you need to accomplish to move up? Performance requirements, what items have to be checked off? And service requirements, how much time doing the job do you need to have the tenure to move up? As far as knowledge requirements, open book tests, it's all online nowadays. Initially, when I started, I was a PAO, but I was also the testing back in the Aguadilla Cadet Squadron. And I remember that. So it's nice to know that everything is electronic nowadays. The passing score is 80%. Training requirements are, like I explained, the objectives that require the candidate to learn the processes. The performance requirements are pretty much the active participation, the things that you need to do, the items you have to check off a checklist to accomplish that rating. And then service requirements is the amount of time you have to dedicate in a certain area to receive that rating. So like I explained, just like in every other track, there's a technician rating, a senior rating, and a master rating. Okay. The important thing I needed to point out is that in order for you to achieve a senior rating, you also have to qualify in the emergency services field as a public information officer, a PIO, right? Now, a PIO works missions only, right? You have to qualify as a PIO to get the senior rating. There might be a little bit of a confusion as far as what's the difference between a public affairs officer and a public information officer. Well, it's supposed to be the same person. However, a PIO is only during missions. It does not exist outside of missions. All right. So as far as our anniversary coming up, 80 years, the public affairs page in Civil Air Patrol added resources for the anniversary. They have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of really good things that we'll be able to use. They even have templates for, radio PSAs. They have templates for, they have videos. They have a video in case for our social media and such. They also have press releases for different things we can do, samples of proclamations. Really good idea of things that we can use. Now, we got to consider our current limitations and restrictions. First of all, COVID, right? Setting up a booth somewhere might not be feasible at this time because of the limitations that we have within Wing on doing in-person activities, right? However, there might be other restrictions such as, there's not enough time to plan. I mean, am I going to do a banquet? Well, first of all, even if they lift the COVID restrictions, do you physically and do you have the resources to organize something that big, a banquet or a parade? That's something you need to take into consideration if you're going to plan something like that. Okay. But there is a lot of good resources that National has. In addition to that, please let me know if I can help. Right now, I work a lot from home because of our restrictions, right? I do work in person on my job with Customs and Border Protection, but I am able to use, Teams and all of our resources that are online to our best advantage. Nowadays, it's not like it used to be that you had to physically go to the newspaper to send the press release. You can just email it nowadays. And probably all of you have really good relationships with, with the local press, which helps, right? But let me know if I can help. Also, check your email, check your Teams. I did already upload a lot of resources for the 80th anniversary. I tweaked it more for Martinsburg, but the idea is that you can use that as a template and develop it with your, with your squadron, your local unit. Plus, the National put a lot of really good images, posters and such for the 80th anniversary. Here's the actual poster. This one's in a square version to use like on social media, or it could be a thumbnail for whatever is being put online. But also you have these old-timey posters that are actually pretty useful depending on where you're going to be putting them out. So that might be of help as well. Plus, you can also try to use other social media channels to your benefit. Like I'm in Facebook, right? And I have a friend of ours from Puerto Rico that they run a comic book store, but they also have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel where they talk about, comics and this and that. Well, maybe a good example might be using the old Civil Air Patrol poster, the yellow one, and explaining, you remember in the ending credits of Captain America, the First Avenger, they do have the Civil Air Patrol poster. You know, did you know that Civil Air Patrol is a real thing and that this is what we do for the community? And if you have any questions, contact your local squadron. I'm just saying that that's a good idea. You probably know what's best for your local unit. Just let me know if I can help. Okay. All right. So this is what we have, right? Um, we covered the functions of the public affairs officer, the objectives, the branding, assignments, on how they get assigned, the career development, how to progress through the ranks, and the anniversary planning guide. Now, if you noticed, I only did half an hour. And the idea is that I want to get a good half an hour for a good discussion on best practices, any questions, anything that I can learn from y'all. I think this is going to be a good opportunity to have an open forum and us be able to learn, right? If anybody needs to reach out to me, that's my cell phone number and my email. I'm on Teams. I have Teams on the phone. I have Teams in the computer. So, you know, I'll be available as much as I can. And even if I don't answer immediately, I'll be able to answer as soon as possible. So I do appreciate everybody's attention and showing up. So I'm going to open the floor for any questions or any, like I said, best practices. I guess I want to start with explaining as far as a lesson learned, as far as social media. Our Facebook page used to be managed by Colonel Barron, and he passed away. Unfortunately, nobody else had access to that Facebook page, which means that we had a Facebook page that nobody could add data to. We couldn't control any more of it, right? Unfortunately, we tried different avenues of communicating with Facebook, and Facebook is really, really hard. There's no 1-800 Facebook to contact. So we ended up having to create a second page and trying and keep trying to communicate to Facebook that we needed to merge these two pages into one. Unfortunately, we haven't been successful. So I would highly recommend everybody out there that if you do manage a social media page, have at least 2 or 3 people. It might even be a cadet, you know, a senior cadet, of course, somebody with more responsibility. But have people that can also manage the page so we don't fall into the same mistakes as far as controlling social media. Have more than one person who can post, who can take, you know, remove things, add things and such, administrative duties. Does anybody have any questions out there? Any, like I said, concerns, best practices, ideas? I'm going to open the floor. Okay, we don't have anything out there. I'm still going to leave the channel open and I'm still going to try to throw ideas out there. I guess another update I can mention is that you know, on our team's channel, I have sample proclamations, right? My plan is, as far as wing, we need to. I'm going to reach out to the state, either the governor's office or the state legislature, to get a proclamation for the 80th anniversary. That would be a big thing. Another thing that I'm trying to see is if we can reach out to the universities who might have electronic billboards, see if they are willing to put out a message about the 80th anniversary of Civil Air Patrol. Um, uh, I have a working relationship with the Public Affairs Office at the Martinsburg, at the Air National Guard wing that's in Martinsburg. I can probably reach out to the other wing to see if they can put something on the electronic boards as well. But locally, there's a Walgreens or a Burger King or a local mom and pop shop that has a board, a message board out there under their sign. That might be another good idea of putting the word out for the 80th anniversary, even if we're restricted by COVID. So that's another good idea. If anybody has anything else, please, this is the time.
This is Deborah Saul Lewis. I have a question about the branding. I looked at updating my signature block, and where our squadron doesn't have a web page, can we use the wing web page as well as the Civil Air Patrol one?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. You can definitely either leave it and not put anything, or you can put the wing page for sure. What I would highly suggest is don't use the http://. Just leave it as wvwg.cap.gov, just like that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Does anybody else have anything? Any questions, concerns about what we discussed today? About can anybody share what you're planning for your local unit as far as what are we doing for the 80th anniversary? Okay. As far as any other activities or things that we might have planned, like I mentioned, I was thinking about having a PAO Academy National. If anybody remembers, National Headquarters used to have a PAO Academy during their conference, and that has not happened recently. They do have material put out on the national website as far as ideas or not ideas, but presentations on how to do social media and how to do reaching out to the press and such. My idea is that if we do happen to have something in person, I would like to have a representative uh, from professionals in public affairs. If anybody's like me, I don't have a degree in public relations or anything like that. Everything I've learned as far as public affairs comes from Civil Air Patrol. So I would like to have, maybe a journalist, maybe a public relations professional, uh, maybe a private industry public relations representative, and a government public relations representative, and also have a military public affairs officer. That way we get different perspectives on how to conduct public relations and public affairs to broaden our horizon and to learn how to organize our thoughts into developing a plan that can be carried out, but also that we can make it successful. Okay. By the way, if anybody has any questions regarding a public affairs plan, maybe your squadron hasn't had one in a while, but SUI is coming up and you want to you need help with that. That's another thing we can ask and discuss here. I want this to be an open forum where we can share and spread ideas. I'm going to open up the floor again.
Yeah, I think certainly a PAO Academy would be very helpful and useful to us. I'm like you. I don't have any professional background in public affairs, so certainly could benefit from that.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry, you're from Mercer Composite Squadron?
Yes, sir. We're down here in Bluefield. I'm fairly new myself. This month being my 1 year anniversary of joining CAP. So, yeah, it's definitely something that uh, I can use a little help with.
Sure. I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's just so we can share and maybe people have concerns that they're not sure if they wanted to express. What would you say is your biggest challenge that you have as far as putting the word out there about Civil Air Patrol?
I think it's honestly not been too much of a challenge. Um, One issue I know is that someone prior to my involvement had tried to build our web page um, for the squadron, and I do not have any experience in web page building, so that's going to be one thing that's an upcoming challenge. As far as social media goes, though, I was always fairly savvy in that from previous jobs, so I've been able to do the pages for our squadron and took over the existing Facebook, and then I created Instagram, trying to get my Twitter account unlocked, and Google Business and things like that, and LinkedIn. I think we've also got a squadron page there. But other than Facebook, I'm the sole administrator for those pages, so I'm going to work on getting some others involved in that, so we have a fail safe there.
No, that's understandable. I think as far as wing, our biggest challenge is to try to figure out a way to consolidate everybody's message so it's the same. The people that like your squadron doesn't have a website right now, but they were developing one. One squadron's website might look completely different than another squadron's website. However, National wants a format, right? In a way to develop it. Not only that, but a format as how our social media looks and how everything else is supposed to be streamlined and how it's supposed to look, right? So here in Martinsburg, Colonel Mark Wallace is willing to help with that, right? So I'm going to try to see if I can put you in contact with him. He was able to help develop our page, and our page is a .gov page, which is very helpful, right? That means that the resources are available. It's just a matter of having the technical know-how on how to develop it. Hopefully, I'll put you in contact with him and see how we can streamline this. Also, we're going to try to reach out to make sure that all of our data, all of our information is up to date, so that way Wing can have a good reference. And when we say on our Wing website, this is the link to, to Mercer's unit, right, or website or Facebook page, that it is actually that, and you don't click and it goes into nothing, right, or something that has been discontinued. So that's part of it. Yes, as far as the recording, it should be available if you joined us here. The chat for this seminar should be available for this session. I'm sure they'll explain as far as that goes, how to get to it. And let's see. maybe each person could provide a mini resume of skill sets for you to do a conference call form to co-plan. And that is a good idea as well. I hope, as far as Wing, that eventually we can get to a point where we can have available on YouTube. Great, great, excellent. Hopefully my plan in the future is that we are able to meet, since we can use this technology. We don't physically have to go to your squadron all the time, that we can have, a wing PAO meeting, once a quarter, twice a year, not that frequent, just so we can keep sharing these ideas and we can develop this in a more productive way. Hopefully with that, we'll be able to share our experiences and gain from those who actually have a more professional skill set in public affairs as well. Plus those that are commanders / PAO, those might be the people you might want to reach out to, see if anybody who's in the public affairs or public relations realm is willing to do if you're looking for pro bono work, something to volunteer in, Civil Air Patrol might be this this opportunity, right? So I think wherever I've been, our biggest pitfall in public affairs is that we almost feel like we're alone. We're on an island trying to do public affairs for our squadron. I want this to be more of an integrated plan, right? Where Wing is here for you guys. We can share ideas with other squadrons, figure out what works at, maybe the next squadron over has a good idea that we haven't implemented. Oh, you know what? We're going to try that. Or we can share, look, we tried that idea. It didn't work for these reasons. That's something you need to keep in mind if you're going to implement it in your squadron. Stuff like that. So I do appreciate that people are contributing more and more here. So that's great stuff. Does anybody else have anything? I mean, there's plenty of time for sharing a little bit more. Okay, I just took the sound out, so maybe that's why. So hopefully y'all can hear me again. I decided to share this screen again, just a friendly reminder as far as logos and symbols go. Usually this is, at least when I started, not so much anymore. This is where we used to get real caught up on. There was tons of logos and images going out there at different colors and different designs and whatnot. I recognize the originality, especially of our cadets, into developing logos and insignias, but we need to really stick to this stuff, right? It's already there. We don't have to invent it all over again. And the new brand guide at least gives us generator tools for our email signature, which has changed. If you haven't changed it, check it out. There's different ways of using it depending on what equipment you have. So they have different, different alternatives on how to develop your email signature. If you're using a mobile device, you don't need a full signature. All you need is a two-liner, and it also gives it there. But yeah, keep an eye on these symbols, which are used for what. The seal, I would only use it for memos. I don't see a reason why we would make a T-shirt or something like that with the seal. I would just keep it for like official correspondence, and uh, you know, We're going to start using this logo more and more, and the symbol. So I'm going to open up the floor one more time. And if we don't have anything, I guess we get an early release from this one. And hopefully we'll stay in touch and we'll be able to, have frequent meetings, either quarterly or biannually in order to share ideas, help prepare for SUIs and such. I know mine's coming up pretty soon in Martinsburg, so I'm going to open up the floor one more time.
This is Deborah Saul Lewis. We were working on our open house, which had to be put on hold due to COVID. And I was looking for giveaways, things that people, if they stop by, could pick up. And I was wondering if you had any good resources for that.
I'm very sorry to say I don't. Normally, those squadrons that have a budget would, use their resources to go to a commercially available provider, right? And create pens, create pencils or knickknacks, anything like that. Now, normally the squadrons I've belonged to don't have a budget for that kind of stuff, and that's understandable. I don't know of anything. If anybody else here on the floor has something for it, please go ahead.
I do have a question after we're done here.
Okay, that's understandable. What I would say is National does have available brochures, like little handouts. They have one for cadets, one for seniors, and one for pilots. In addition to that, they do have posters you can print out. Some of them don't even have a website. All they have is the QR code, which is what kids, I say kids, sometimes I use it, but we use nowadays to, go to a website with your cell phone. That's what we have. As far as merchandise goes, right? If you're going to hand out anything, if you do have the budget for that and need to use it, you don't need a letter approving you to use it. These logos are copyrighted, right? I do want to point that out. However, in our regulations, it states that we are allowed to use these items as long as they're not for a commercial gain. So that means, I can make a t-shirt with the Civil Air Patrol logo, and I have been pre-authorized to do that. I don't need to do that. I don't need to run and get a letter approving us to use it. And it would be the same for stuff you need to hand out. But that's what I have so far. If I do find something, I will let you know, because I do need it for us. So I think if we can share that information, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Armando, this is Virginia Brown, Morgantown. If, pardon me, if we are contacting community organizations and they are amenable to making donations, can we print flyers? And I've always found that the best way to get a bunch of flyers and blanket everything is to have a printer print them up for you as a donation to the squadron. And are we allowed to do that?
Yes, we are. I would highly suggest that we look up the regulation that deals with donations, because there are limits to that, right?
Right. Well, I'm the FO too, so I have a couple of lines of communication already established. And it turns out that the county commissions in most of the counties, if not all, in West Virginia are very, very, very active in making sure that they make donations to organizations that work with children, like the cadets. And they were very good to us last time, 1,500. They're talking somewhere this year between 3,000 and 5,000. So if anyone has a county commission in their area, I've been more than happy to give you some of the things that I made my presentation for. And my commander went with me, and they approved it right there in the meeting. So if you can use that kind of money, they don't fetter it. He said, this money is undesignated. You can do whatever you want with it. So that's one avenue where you can get the money to buy the things that you want to buy if you're going to have some kind of public affairs event. But the fundraising, and each of you either have a finance officer, but you certainly have people on the fundraising committee. And if there's nobody, it's got to be the squadron commander. They love seeing money come in.
Right.
But if the PAOs work together with the squadron commander and the fundraising committee and the finance officer, that's a pretty good team.
That's a great idea. That's really good. I'm trying to find the actual reg that deals with donations. I know there's a limit, but it seems to me that oh, here it is. So it's 173-4.
Right.
173-4 would be specific as far as how to handle these donations. However, it sounds like a fantastic idea and a way of finding the resources to do these kinds of things.
Right.
As far as getting a printer, that's also a good idea. I would anyways recommend a printer. And the reason is that to do it at home with your home printer is
Right.
not a great idea. You're using a lot of resources, personal resources. They're not good quality.
It doesn't
However,
achieve that professional look. You're absolutely right.
exactly. Now, what you need to remember, which is my biggest mistake always, is that if you're going to go to a commercial printer, either paying out of pocket or asking for the donation, is that you give yourself enough time. So that way, these things can get done on time, because usually they'll take a couple of weeks. They'll say, okay, I'm going to put you in the queue and it's going to take 2 weeks. And you're like, well, I needed it this weekend. Then we got a problem, right?
Sometimes 5-6 weeks, and it depends. And I have discovered over the last, not just with this organization, but in the last 6-8 years, during an election year, they got so much business, you don't even want to go near them. But the year before, dead in their door now, and they'll be happy to do something for somebody and get a tax write-off. So.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing is, usually the more time you give them, the better quality of a product they can give you. The less time they have, then well, I can only do black and white because you need it this weekend.
Yeah.
But if you give them enough time, you can get a good quality item.
We have people in our squadrons who may have some skills that nobody's aware of. And I did a lot of this kind of thing in my career, and I wrote policy manuals, and so I have some a handle on some of the upper level type writing that you would want to do to get someone's attention. And I've done a lot of these for charity places, so I would be willing to at least consult with whoever wants to do something. If you do kind of a draft and say, I don't know what to do with this, I might be able to pretty it up and make it look nice and all of that. So we can do that by email. We can do that by showing examples on the screen during conference calls. This year's almost done. We're going to be in 81 years pretty soon. What's the anniversary date specific, month, day?
So it's going to be 1st December. That's a Wednesday.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
One thing that that I have already put on the Teams, remember that we do have Teams and the Teams channel for public affairs. I did put out a sample of a letter for people to take to church for worship weekend. That's something that's done in conjunction with the chaplains. In addition to that, since we do have this COVID restriction, maybe something similar to go to your place of work in uniform if it's possible.
Consistent place to go. So there's I didn't even know there was a place that you have stuff in Teams.
Yes.
I was unaware of that.
So under the West Virginia Wing team, right? There's several channels. Let me see if I can put this up. I'm on the 2-minute warning here, but under the West Virginia Wing channel, team, it's divided in channels. You have general, aerospace, aviation, education, air crew. There is one for public affairs. Okay. There in that one, under the files, I have quite a few things, and some of them are either this PowerPoint that I used is there, The new signature block update is there. Boilerplate. There's also the under the seminar folder, I have a uniform letter for work, one for school to see if principals will allow our cadets to go to school in uniform, and then the worship weekend letter.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a
I'm on-
suggestion for an anniversary celebration, and this being October, it's 6 weeks out, might work. My husband just suggested something that I think is an excellent idea, and we're sort of a team ourselves. He said, what if all of the airplanes that CAP has in West Virginia made a round robin to each airport that's within a squadron, or whatever county, whatever you want to call it. And you could spend 15, 20 minutes, half hour each one, have banners, invite the press, take a 5-minute discussion with whomever's the high person in the area at the time, and talk about our anniversary and do it and use it as a recruiting event, because goodness knows we need to start recruiting again. So that would be an okay thing. The day, of course, is a lot shorter than it used to be, so you might have to have not all 5 go to every airport, but have each airplane that's housed someplace. Like we're in Morgantown, so we would choose 3 or 4 squadrons, and then so on. All 5 would choose 3, and they go, and they have banners and to talk to the press.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to write that one down. We're going to discuss more about this on our future, if we meet in the future. I think it's a good idea. We need to coordinate that with the aircrew people, of course, and with the wing commander, but I think it is feasible. Look, my time is done. I need to move on, but thank you very much to everybody for doing this. Let's stay in touch on Teams and let's do more.
All right.
Okay.
Give me a call if you have any questions.
All right, will do. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one.